Technology. In the age of technology, the age of the machine, everything's progressing and improving, you know? In the past, we would often have these fantasies that everything's going to be so much convenient. You know, with the power of technology, we won't have to work as hard. Everything's going to be more convenient. The world would be our oyster as long as society continued to develop technology to greater and greater limits. But here's a unfortunate reality of technology and its improvement over time. It didn't actually improve. I'm coming at the point that saying, no, actually, as time has gone on, technology has just gotten more and more just garbage. And what do I mean by that? Well, what do I mean when I say that is that, well, it's just inconvenient as shit, you know? So much technology nowadays is no longer here to help you or make things convenient. In the age of technology where, you know, you have the internet and Wi-Fi and all sorts of things that our ancestors couldn't have ever fathomed of, it would be almost like magic to them. The unfortunate reality is that technology sucks. It has made us lesser and more dumber over time because of our over reliance on that. But besides over reliance and us just becoming dumber since we over rely on, you know, like calculators, AI to write shit for us, you know, that's one thing. The shittiest thing possible, in my opinion, is that technology is just so inconvenient. All these gadgets and gizmos are just unnecessary. You know what I mean? Why do you need a smart refrigerator? What exactly is the purpose of having a refrigerator that you can play fucking Skyrim on? Not that useful. What else? Ah, yes, a smart car. I've driven a smart car. It was a Kia. It was a rental car. When my dad got really drunk one night and, well, let's just say I had to drive through, you know, almost pretty much South Florida at Christmas time, since I was, you know, doing vacation. That fucking piece of shit car was a smart car. It had, you know, all the touching things and gizmos, gadgets and gizmos. It was the fucking most annoying thing ever. Why? The steering wheel, first off, was a rectangle. I don't like rectangle steering wheels. It just feels off. But the dashboard was this, like, tablet-like device where it kept beeping in the middle of the night since it was late at night. It was like 10 or something. This fucking thing kept beeping at me to take breaks. It's like, dude, have you never driven late at night? It's like, how do I turn the setting off? You don't even know. I never found out. But this fucking thing was so egregious and annoying to use because I didn't know where, like, half the shit was. Because it wasn't like a traditional car where there was actually, like, a stick in the middle where I could, you know, sit the car in park, drive, or neutral. You didn't have that. It was fucking weird to me. It had all these buttons in the middle that were sort of like it, but it wasn't like a stick. Then you had all the other fucking shits. Like, if you touched and fucked with the radio, the radio was garbage. I couldn't get a channel up. It was so retarded how to use this damn thing. And this was supposed to be the height of technology. A smart car is supposed to make my life easier. No, it made things more inconvenient. Why can't I just turn a dial and switch to the channel I want? Why can't I just set the AC to how I want it? Like, there's no dials. No, you have a couple of buttons, which made the car drive a little bit better. But the rest of it was like, you had to mess with this damn touchscreen. It was crap. I hated it. It was so annoying. So inconvenient. And just think of all the other things that you just don't need. Like, if you really think about it, how can you justify the existence of some of this garbage? For example, Alexa. I mean, it's a cool gadget, it's a cool gizmo, where you can, like, say, hey, Alexa, play Despacito, if anyone remembers that. Welcome to being old. But, Alexa is, like, somehow, like, a personal assistant thing. But for me, it's like, what exactly is the point of this thing? Can't you just do all the things that you want? Because, oftentimes those damn AI assistants just mishear you, they do the wrong thing, or you just say something off key, they hear you, then they start up and doing all sorts of stupid stuff like ordering random shit for you. It's just inconvenient. And furthermore, this stuff surveils you. People listen into you. You think Amazon's just doing this out of the goodness of their heart? No, they're fucking listening to you. Same with Apple and Siri. Though everyone knew that a long time ago. And at this point, pretty much everyone has accepted the fact that we're going to be surveilled and our data is going to be stolen and taken. Everyone's just accept that fact. Whereas in the past, people would be outraged by it, but a new age comes, new times, and just acceptance of these things that before would have been found unacceptable. But you got the Keurig thing where it can only use Keurigs. Like Keurig, the coffee Keurig things. That's supposed to be technology that's going to change the world. No, it's just more consumerism. It's more bullshit that we don't need. Like, do you really need basically this little goofy ass headset and walk around everywhere while you supposedly like just touch the sky or whatever to move all the shit? Like it's really retarded looking if you really think about it. Like, people have made fucking meme videos and jokes about this stuff because of just how stupid and ridiculous this looks. And is it even really good for you? Like, what purpose does it serve other than just more technology, just more consumer technologies? It's just garbage. There's just no point to it. Google Glass, that's ridiculous. You kidding me? A Google Glass? Like, why do you need to have basically a heads-up display where you see all this crap and you just touch and poke at the sky like a fucking drooling mongoloid? Like, it's just not unnecessary. It's very unnecessary. Yet, people keep saying, oh, things are going to get better and whatnot. It's like, people are kind of getting tired of having to deal with all sorts of technologies and tech supports shit because it's just so inconvenient and overcomplicated. Like, have you ever like had to deal with like setting up like, some new piece of software and just trying to figure out how the hell it works? I had to figure out how to use, OBS for the first time, though OBS is a lot more simpler compared to other shit I've tried to work with. But just technology nowadays is just almost at like a equilibrium. It's like reached the peak and it's just becoming stagnant. VR headsets are just, let's just be honest, guys. People use VR headsets to watch porn in. And, there goes the video. But, like, come on. I hate saying corn or whatever. It's stupid. Can I just say it? I don't even mean it in a bad context. It's like, a lot of people just use it to watch that stuff. And don't even get me started on VR chat, if anyone is aware of what VR chat is. Though I'm pretty sure many are. Like, that's a fucking den of degeneracy of astronomical levels. And I'm not exactly a perfect guy, too. Who doesn't like a nice pair of tits here and there, I joke, but it's like some of this stuff just gets really weird and it really makes you think, it's like, what's the point of this other than just satisfying a base urge and desire, or just satisfying the autistic side of ourselves? It's like, this automated bread cutter cuts bread automatically. My God, what a genius form of technology. I should salute this man. I'll pay $500 for this thing. And all it does is, as the name implies, it cuts bread automatically, sort of. You still have to load up the bread in there, but it cuts it on its own. You know, it it just gets to a point where it's like, how can we justify half of this shit that we make and say that this is progress? You know, it makes no sense. It literally does. It makes no sense. And on top of that, you know, the overconsumption of just consumer electronics and whatnot, we are becoming dumber. And all this shit, like the tablets and stuff, and hell, you know, some smart cars have subscriptions in it. It's like we drain and throw away all this money. And for what? For stuff that makes our lives more complicated. And we can head over to social media and we can see the same thing. It doesn't make our lives any better. It just makes it more depressing, since a lot of people, you know, often compare themselves, they doom scroll, they hear of all this horrible things happening in the world. It really, you know, brings to light that how naive we were in the past, and our ancestors in the past, thinking that technology would make life better. But in reality, it's made it worse in a lot of aspects. Sure, I can look up any type of information whatsoever on the internet, but the downside of that is that, you know, so many people no longer meet in person. You know, we go through Discord or Skype, FaceTime, any number of, you know, voice chats and video chatting, or any type of platform possible. But it has made people more and more incapable of social interaction. It's just made life far worse overall. The quality of life hasn't gotten any better. And they can no longer provide the justification that technology makes life more convenient, since a lot of the times, you know, people have to fuck around with a smart TV or other shit where you can't just simply plug it in and expect it to work. You have to download this software, you have to accept this license agreement, or do this, or it has to have that specific type of hardware or it won't work. It's just so much more complicated than just the simple idea of, I buy this thing, I plug it in, and it works. As long as it has electricity, it works. Nothing's like that anymore. Same with games. Same with video games. You know, people say games are better than ever, but no, games are worse than ever, because, you know, you have more and more graphical fidelity. But in reality, it's just garbage. Like, the actual gameplay of many of these games is very limited. It's very empty. It's incomplete for a lot of these things. And it makes you wonder, well, why are we unable to make good games today compared to in the past, where a lot of games could be made, you know, with low graphical fidelity, and they were good. They're cult classics. Perhaps it has a lot to do with the idea that everything has to be financially profitable. Everything has to be profitable. Everything has to be maximized effort when it comes to how much money something can be, or how many concurrent players that they have per week or whatever. And if it doesn't meet those goals, then somehow the game's a failure. When there are quite a few cult classic games where they weren't exactly bestsellers, but over time they've become very popular games and very notable games. But that's just my thoughts on that. And it's a damn shame that, you know, Sony, Microsoft, and all these companies are even getting rid of the middleman of, like, the developers for these games, and trying to use AI to make games. You know, for example, Black Ops, the most recent title, Black Ops. I forget what what number of Black Ops it is, because, you know, Call of Duty is just such a crap franchise, in my opinion. It's a shadow of itself, and they keep releasing title year by year by year without giving anyone a break. They used AI, and it was one of the worst sales of Call of Duty ever, because what could you expect when you're having a damn machine trying to essentially take a bunch of already used assets and ideas and try and recycle them into a new game. It just doesn't work like that. And people don't find that to be fun, hence why it failed. Yet Microsoft wants to keep making more of these games, since Microsoft, pretty sure, owns Activision, Treyarch, and whatnot, the Call of Duty franchise, I'm pretty sure. But it's just such a damn shame that so many things that we could do before is just not possible anymore, or people are unwilling to do it in large scale anymore because, well, it's not profitable, or it's not convenient, it's too hard, we're too lazy, we've become lazy on top of that. But at the end of the day, it really makes you think that, wow, we are so screwed, you know? We were promised this bright future, even in like the early 2000s, about technology and how things are going to get way better. The smartphone was the greatest invention ever. But it has been nothing more than man's greatest folly, in my opinion. It has devolved mankind in a sort of way because it has made it impossible in a lot of ways for people to interact with each other normally, unless you're in a completely, less developed nation where it's not that common. But the problems with technology have basically overflown into culture and consumed it with a lot of materialism and vice, and it's just made everything worse. And the technology itself is just less convenient. It's made everything worse. Life is more difficult than it's ever been. The quality of life has failed. The promised future of like robots taking over and, doing all the work while we can relax and, read poetry or make art or whatever, that's such a lie. It's such a mischaracterization of what reality is, what it really is. So I'll leave it off with this. I think over time people will start to want more simpler things. We can even see it now. There's a lot big nostalgia, big longing for the past, and some nostalgia for more simpler things like VHS tapes, tape recorders, MP3 players. People want more simpler things because it's just more convenient to have simple things rather than all these features and whatnot, gadgets and gizmos. It's too complicated. People want to have tools and gadgets that serve one purpose and one purpose alone, and it does it well and it's simple. That's what people really want. People don't want 500 features to try and justify a ridiculous subscription fee. People don't want that. People want things that are simple. And again, as time goes on, people are starting to lean towards that. They're wanting more simpler lives, more old-fashioned lives in a lot of ways, where there's a less reliance on technology and people using their own brain power to solve problems or figure things out. And all I can say is that there should be an effort. Everyone should put in an effort to try and, figure out things on their own rather than trying to rely on a machine, and try and just not be so consumed by all these gadgets and gizmos that serve they don't really serve much of a purpose other than just being indulgent bullshit that companies sell you to and make you think that, oh, it's going to make your life better or more convenient. In reality, it doesn't. But that's all I have for today. So I'll leave you with that. What do you guys think? Has technology become worse or has it become better? In many respects, I'd say it's become worse over time because it's kind of lost the plot. But I'll leave it to you. All right. Thank you for listening and goodbye.